All right, guys, here are the last of the notes for our circles unit. We're going to talk about equations of a circle on a coordinate plane. So now we're going to graph a circle. So we're going to have coordinate points. We're going to be dealing with a few different things. The first thing we want to talk about is these two questions we have here. When dealing with a circle, what point in the circle will give you a location? Well, when you're on the coordinate grid, what we're going to learn is the center of the circle is going to give you its direct, exact location on the graph. So here we'll write in location is going to be the center. So that's center point. And then it wants to know what length, so we're looking at some sort of segment here, will give the circle its size. And for the length, we will be using the radius. So these are going to be the two very, very important things dealing with a circle so that you can write the equation of a circle, you can graph a circle, etc. So let's take a look at this next section here. We've got a circle. The definition is simply just a set of all points that are on this coordinate grid, and they are a fixed distance. This fixed distance is called the radius, so that's that length. Okay, all the points that are on the circle, all the way around the circle, are a fixed distance, which is going to be that radius. And it's going to be from this fixed point called the center. So you're going to go from the center to any point on this circle line. Okay, that's going to give you your radius, that distance, that length. So when you have a circle, you're going to have coordinates on the coordinate grid that are going to be x, y. We already know that. Okay, each point on this circle line is going to be r units away, radius, or length. So from the center to each place is going to be a radius, r units away from the center, which we use the letters HK in our equation here. Okay. The standard equation for a circle is written right here. We are going to highlight a couple things because these are the things that we need to make sure we are paying very, very close attention to, so we do not forget when we're writing our equation. When we have this, we have x minus h. So if you have the center, hk, you would subtract that h. Be careful because when we have negatives, we'll see that. You're going to have to also make sure you have a squared out here. Then you're going to add the y minus the k, where the y coordinate would be, right? And making sure that we square it. Then we're going to take our radius, and we cannot just write the radius. We have to square that radius. So when I was talking about these minus h and minus k's, big thing that you have to remember here, okay? Very, very important. You must change the sign of h and k because of these subtractions. So let's write in here, must change the sign of h and k. Please pause it and make sure you get that written down. So when we look at this circle, we talked about here, HK are going to be the coordinates of your center right here. So these will be two different numbers, H and K. And then we said it's going to be a fixed distance right here from each point on the circle, which is going to be R, your radius. And these are the things that we're going to be using for this, for finding our equations. First, though, we are going to be given the equation, and we're going to list the center, and we're going to list the radius of these circles, okay? So we need to remember first here, and I will be switching up some colors here, okay? I'm going to differentiate between the center and the radius with different colors. Our equation is going to be that x minus h, and we need to make sure that we square it, plus y minus k. Okay, so my centers I'm going to use with my orange, and we're going to square that, all equal to the radius, okay, squared. Have to square that radius. So again, remembering these very, very important points right here, the minuses and the squares. So when we take a look here, again, we have to change the sign of h and k. So when we look at this equation, x minus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 16. When we go to find the center and the radius, the center isn't too bad. We have to make sure that we take, here's where h is going to be, here's where k is going to be. So I'm going to put C for center, but again, have to change the sign. So it's minus 3, so it's going to end up being a positive 3. Minus 5, so it's going to end up being a positive 5. Okay? Your radius now. your radius right here, this is the radius squared. Okay, so your radius squared is equal to 16 because that's what your formula calls for, your equation calls for. So we have to take the square root so that we can get rid of the square. It's just like if we had x squared. Okay, we need to get rid of that exponent. So the square root of 16 will give you 4. So then your radius ends up being 4. Okay, so that's how you find your center and your radius. All right, let's take a look at B. Here we're going to have our h and our k, remembering we must change the sign. We have a positive 2 or a plus 2, so we now need to make it a negative 2. We have a negative 5 or minus 5, so we need to change it to a positive 5. There's our center. Just change the signs. Again, with our radius, this is our radius squared. Okay, so our radius squared is 9. We take the square root. We need to slow down with these, okay? It seems very simple and easy, but we've got to slow down so we don't forget to take that square root or change those signs. The square root of 9 is going to give you 3 for your radius. I encourage you to pause and try the next one on your own. I really, really do. Okay? So here's some time for you to pause. So you can do it on your own because you got this. Now that you have completed it, let's go ahead and take a look at our center. We have h and k, remembering to change the signs. These are positives. So we might make sure this is a negative 2. We have a positive 7 or plus 7, so we need to make it a negative 7. All we do, change the sign. Grab those numbers, change the sign. Remembering that, again, our radius squared is equal to 25. So we need to square root what's on the right-hand side of this equation so we can get the radius. Square root of 25 is 5. Okay? So let's take a look at the other way around. Let's say I give you the center, I give you the radius, you need to come up with our equation. Okay? So again, I'm going to rewrite that equation so that's not over here. I'm going to have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, all equal to the radius squared. So we're going to pick up the same thing. We're going to start off with writing our equation. Everything that I have in black on this is going to stay, well, other than over here, the square over here. Everything on the left-hand side that's in black stays. It's the h, unless we have to change the sign, okay? But the parentheses, the x, the square, the plus, the y over here, all this stays the same. So let's look exactly what this looks like. Your center, remember, is h, k. Your x coordinate is h. Your y coordinate is k. So that's why they go with, h goes with x, k goes with y. So here we start off with x. Now we don't want to put minus yet because we need to take a look. We have a positive 4, so we need to change it to a negative 4. Okay? Close our parentheses squared. Then we put that plus sign right there. Open up our parentheses and write y. Okay, so our k is a positive 2, so we need to change the sign to a negative 2. Close the parentheses and put the little squared up here. And then our equal sign. Now, with the radius, we need to remember the radius equals 6, but we want the radius squared. So we're going to take 6 squared, and we're going to find out this is 36, and that's what we're going to put. Probably should have left a little bit more room there. That's what we're putting in as the radius squared. We're not putting 6 squared. You have to actually do that math and square it. So this ends up being our equation. I'll leave room on the next one. And I mean, I encourage you to try the next one on your own. I know we just started, but I encourage it. If not, let's go ahead and go through this. Here is h, here is k, and here is your r, radius. So these are the things we're plugging into our equations. Again, formulas. That's all we're doing this unit, or this semester, really. So we're going to open these parentheses. We're going to have x. Now let's check out what's going on here. I have a negative 2, so this negative in the equation tells me change it. That's what we talked about earlier, and we're going to write it again. So instead of a negative 2, we're going to have a plus 2. We've got to change that sign. Close the parentheses squared, plus, open parentheses, and put our y. We have a positive 3, change it to a negative 3. Squared, all equal to, well, we need our radius squared. So we're going to take our radius 7, square it, and we're going to get 49. And that's what goes in place right here. So that's all we're doing, but some of you will think, oh, this is really easy. But again, the easy things are where we make our mistakes, okay, because we go too fast and we forget the little things. We're going to graph now, okay, and then find the area and circumference. We'll do this real quickly. So the first thing we have to do when we graph is we have to make sure that we know the center and we know the radius. Okay, center's first. The other issue we have here is we have this -9 on the left. We need to get it over here so we have a radius squared. So just like with any time you want to move it from one side of the equal sign to the other, you have to do the opposite operation. So we're going to add 9 to both sides, canceling this out. So then we're left with x minus 7 squared plus y plus 5 squared. No more -9. We go straight to the equal sign, 9. So now we have exactly what we had on the other side, the front side of these notes. So the first things first, let's find our center. Our center, h and k, we have a -7, so we want to make it a positive. We have a +5, so we want to make it a -5. And then here we have our radius squared is 9, so we need to square root it, so that we get a radius of 3. When we graph, we start with that center. So let's go find +7, -5 on the graph. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. -5, so down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be where our center is, where we're going to go and find 4 different points to connect together as a circle. We're going to go up, down, left, and right, our radius length. That's what we're talking about in the front, about our radius. The length is going to be the radius. So all 4 directions, you're going to go 3 units and put a little tiny point. We're going to go, let's go right first, 1, 2, 3, little point. Down, 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter what order you go in, left, right, up, down, as long as you're going 3 in all 4 directions, 1, 2, 3. And then all you have to do is connect those together. On your assignment, you will be given a circle, and you're going to have to identify the equation. You just go the other direction, okay? Find that center, write out your center based on the center point, and then count from the center to just one of these. Either to, I would just say, you know what, make it easy, just go right, and count how many go to the right. That's your radius. And then you do this number up here, okay? Let's go ahead and practice circumference and area real quick. Circumference, your formula, you got a couple different ones. You can do diameter times pi. Let's just do, I'm just going to kick with 2 pi r since we have our radius of 3. So we're going to plug in, we're going to get 2 times pi times our radius of 3. Plug that in the calculator, we're just going to round to the nearest tenth, okay? Now, we are not using 3.14, we are using the pi symbol. Okay, I did forget to mention something up in example 2. We'll go up there in a second. You need to use the pi symbol in the calculator. 3.14 and the pi symbol can give you different answers. Okay, when you type in 2 pi times 3, round to the nearest tenth, you should get approximately 18.8 for your circumference. Your area, your formula, is pi r squared. So we've got our pi, and in parentheses, I'm going to put the radius squared, 3 squared, because I want to make sure that the 3 gets squared. I don't want to, it should, it's just calculated at school, it should automatically order operation and square the 3, but I always want to make sure I'm careful with that. And whenever you do this and you plug this in your calculator, the pi symbol, whether it's at school or whether it's on a calculator on your phone, Desmos is always a recommended one to use at home. You're going to get, round to the nearest tenth, approximately 28.3. Now let's go back up to example number 2 real quick. We need to remember, because we talked about this on the other side over here, you know, always remember to change the sign. We're going to write that again, okay? When you're given the center and you're given the radius, all right, we need to remember, we'll put right here, remember, change the sign of your x and y coordinates, Okay, so whatever your coordinates are, which are, H and K, X, Y, it's just your X and Y coordinates, make sure you change those signs, okay? The other thing you need to do whenever you're going this direction is you have to remember, with that radius, you have to remember, square the radius. Okay, it's not as simple as just, writing down what number they have on that one. You've got to change the sign of the coordinates like we did here, and then you need to make sure you square that radius. And that's the end of your circle notes and the circle unit.